On a quiet October night in 1974, a young newlywed named Arlis Perry entered the hallowed halls of Stanford's Memorial Church for a moment of peace, a chance to pray and reflect. But what began as a simple visit would become one of the most chilling mysteries in Stanford's history. Found brutally murdered at the altar the next morning, Arlis's case went unsolved for over 4 decades, shrouded in whispers of cults, sinister symbols, and unanswered questions. Today, we'll delve deep into the dark enigma surrounding Arlis Perry's tragic death, the haunting leads that captivated investigators, and the shocking discovery that finally brought this cold case to an unexpected close. On February 22, 1955, in Bismarck, North Dakota, Marvin and Jean Dama welcomed their daughter, Arlis K. Perry, into the world. Arlis grew up to be a well-liked, caring young woman with a deep commitment to her faith. She was active in her high school's cheerleading squad, an enthusiastic participant in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and took on the important role of a leader, guiding fellow campers and spreading the message of the gospel. Arlis continued her education after high school at Bismarck Junior College and worked at a nearby dental office. Life seemed to be falling into place for the young woman who was ready to embark on new adventures, especially after marrying her high school sweetheart Bruce Perry in 1974. The couple's move to California was a significant one for Arlis. Leaving behind her family and hometown was difficult, but she adapted quickly. While Bruce continued his studies at Stanford University, Arlis found a job as a receptionist at a local law firm. Everything seemed promising until the fateful night of October 12, 1974, when Arlis disappeared, leading to a chilling and mysterious murder that would remain unsolved for decades. It all began on the night of October 12, 1974, when Arlis and Bruce went for a walk around Stanford's campus. During a minor disagreement about the car's tire pressure, Arlis decided to take a brief walk to the Stanford Memorial Church to pray, while Bruce returned to their apartment. As the hours passed and she failed to return, Bruce grew worried and set off to search for her. By 3 a.m., he called the police. Police arrived at the church, but no signs of Arlis were found. Then, at 5:45 a.m., Stephen Crawford, a campus security guard, made a shocking discovery. Arlis Perry's lifeless body was found inside the church. She was lying on the floor, arranged in a strange and unsettling way. Her clothes were partially removed, and a candle was positioned between her breasts. Most disturbingly, a long candle had been shoved into her body. The crime scene suggested that Arlis had been brutally murdered, possibly sexually assaulted, and possibly strangled. At first, investigators had little to go on. They discovered a partial fingerprint on one of the candles, but DNA technology was in its infancy and couldn't provide much help at the time. In addition, Arlis's glasses or contacts, always worn by the victim, were nowhere to be found, adding to the mystery. Authorities questioned those who had seen Arlis on the night she was last seen. She had been seen at the church at 11:35 p.m., just before it was to close. The last person to lock the church was Stephen Crawford, the campus security guard. He would later be interviewed, but nothing suspicious was noted at the time. However, the gruesome nature of the murder led to rampant speculation. Some suggested that the crime could be related to satanic rituals, a theory that had gained traction in the years prior, after similar incidents were reported in the area. Arlis's body, positioned in an unsettling manner, certainly fit that narrative. Still, there was no concrete evidence to support such theories, and they remained speculative at best. Naturally, suspicion initially fell on Arlis's husband, Bruce Perry. In cases like this, authorities often start by investigating those closest to the victim, and Bruce, as her husband, became their primary focus. The police subjected him to intense and grueling interrogation sessions, pressing him for information and searching for any potential inconsistencies in his story. Bruce, however, remained steadfast in his denial of any involvement, though the stress of the situation clearly took a significant toll on him. He was left reeling, grappling with the devastating reality of his wife's murder while simultaneously defending himself from accusations. As part of the investigation, Bruce underwent a polygraph test and willingly provided his fingerprints to the authorities, demonstrating his cooperation. After thorough scrutiny, the police found no evidence linking him to the crime. The polygraph results and other findings eventually led to Bruce being fully cleared of any suspicion. Despite this, the experience left deep emotional scars, as the trauma of losing his wife was compounded by the weight of being seen as a potential suspect. While Bruce was eventually exonerated, the investigation turned toward other possible leads. Arlis's colleagues at the law firm where she worked shared a particularly troubling account. They recalled that, just days before her disappearance, Arlis had been approached by an unidentified man. Witnesses described him as a Caucasian male in his early 20s, with sandy blonde hair and an average build. According to those who saw them interact, Arlis appeared visibly shaken and distressed following their conversation. It was an encounter that clearly left an impression on her co-workers, who believed it might be connected to her fate. Despite their efforts, investigators were unable to identify this man. Witnesses could not provide enough details to create a solid profile, and no other leads emerged to help track him down. He remains an enigmatic figure in the case, one whose intentions, identity, and possible involvement in Arlis's death continue to raise questions. His sudden appearance and the emotional impact it seemed to have on Arlis added another layer of mystery to the tragic story, leaving authorities and those who knew her searching for answers. As the investigation into Arlis Perry's murder progressed, a number of theories began to emerge, reflecting the desperation to find answers in a case that seemed to defy resolution. One of the more sensational theories revolved around the notion that Arlis had been targeted by individuals involved in satanic rituals or cult activities. During the 1970s, fear of so-called satanic cults was widespread, fueled by media reports and cultural paranoia. This idea gained traction partly because of the circumstances of Arlis's murder. Her body had been discovered in a church, a setting that some speculated could have symbolic significance to such groups. However, despite the intrigue surrounding this theory, investigators were unable to uncover any evidence linking her death to occult practices, and the speculation ultimately failed to yield any concrete leads. Another theory that captured attention was the possibility that Arlis's murder was somehow connected to David Berkowitz, the infamous Son of Sam serial killer who terrorized New York City in the mid-1970s. Berkowitz's crimes and chilling claims of being part of a satanic cult gave rise to rumors of a broader network of killers. Some investigators speculated that Arlis, a devout Christian, might have drawn unwanted attention from such a group due to her faith or her efforts to convert others. Berkowitz himself, while imprisoned, made cryptic statements that seemed to allude to her murder, adding fuel to the theory. Despite the apparent links, authorities conducted a thorough investigation and ultimately dismissed the idea. No credible evidence tied Berkowitz or any associates to the crime, leaving this avenue of inquiry as another dead end. As the years turned into decades, Arlis Perry's case grew increasingly cold. Leads that initially seemed promising unraveled under closer scrutiny, and new evidence failed to surface. The community, once shaken by the horrific nature of the crime, was left grappling with more questions than answers. For Arlis's family, friends, and the small circle of those who remembered her, the lack of resolution was a persistent source of anguish. Despite numerous inquiries, advancements in forensic technology, and the tireless efforts of investigators, nothing substantial came to light. The passage of time only deepened the mystery. The haunting image of a young woman's life cut short in such a brutal and senseless manner lingered in the collective memory of those who followed the case. Every few years, the story would resurface in media reports or true crime discussions, reigniting speculation but bringing no closer to solving the puzzle. Arlis Perry's murder became one of those tragic cases that seemed destined to remain a chilling enigma, a stark reminder of the unanswered questions that can sometimes outlast even the most persistent search for justice.